Netflix has removed Dave Chappelle's old sketch comedy show from its platform. The comedian said when he sold Chappelle's show to Comedy Central years ago, he signed a contract that basically meant he didn't own the rights to the show anymore. This is very common. He said at the time it wasn't good money, but he was desperate. Well, earlier this month, Netflix began streaming the show, but Dave says he was completely left out of the deal. He asked Netflix to take it down because it made him feel bad, quite honestly, and they did. By the way, this is also on HBO, too. So they just grabbed all the ownership, and this happens a lot in the industry. If you don't have ownership of what you created, speaking of creating, they're going to sell that for a lot more money than they bought it for. That's business, though. That's business.
And you know what this reminds me of? Last year when I felt the wrath of Erica Cobb and the Taylor Swifties out there. You know, because I jumped in and it was like, yo, Scooter Braun. That was brilliant what he did to purchase her catalog. But what Erica was so elegantly
skate wisely on this thin ice.
She was telling, no, she was like, I hope you never get into a contractual situation like that to where now you've signed away your artistry. Oh, there's that word again. You signed away your work to a Viacom or to a big Scooter Braun. And now years later, you can't reap the benefit from it. So it has to be a Taylor Swift or a Dave Chapelle to challenge the status quo. They have the talent to where they're not going anywhere. But if it was someone that was like, oh, they took my music, they took my money, and that wasn't that big of a deal, then it's like, okay, that person is going to wash out.
Right,
but it has to be
when you're
Dave
coming
Chappelle.
up, you're not Dave Chappelle, you're not Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
You're signing that contract, right?
Yeah, he was an expecting father. He was broke. He sold it. It was a very minimal amount of money. And sadly, he wasn't in a position financially where he could afford to fight it. And he said he didn't know if he didn't agree to the terms, he wouldn't have got the money, and he was that desperate he needed it. So kudos to Netflix for doing the right thing, and hopefully they give him some sort of buyout fee or something if they do go ahead and choose to stream it in the future.
Well, I think Netflix is fine. I think Chappelle is fine.
Yeah.
We should teach this in school now, contracts.
Well, I heard an interesting quote that I think I shared when we were talking about that Scooter Braun thing. It was some rock star, I wish I remembered his name, but he said he'd rather sell 20,000 albums and own 100% of that than sell 20 million and only own 20% of it, right? So if you do the math there, that didn't make sense to anybody.
I'm going to do the math in a little bit. Let me get my calculator on my phone.
Tisha Campbell and Tashina Arnold. Take us back.